Batman Urban Legends issue 6, and this is a big issue for this because it's the culmination for the first story arc. So Jason's talking to Babs, saying, "Okay, I need like a suit to go and like save Batman. We have one sample of an antidote from the lab that we were at last time, and he doesn't have an outfit with him though, so he's in like one of the mini bat caves. So it's sort of implied that he's about to take a bat suit, and dress up in that." And sure enough, he does. He doesn't take the cowl though. He basically takes a bat suit, but just has his own little face mask with the bat suit. So it's it's like, okay, he's taking a Bruce suit, but he's not trying to pretend to be Batman or anything. Teardrop's hamming it up with all of his villains that he's got under his control. So like I say, he's got the bat suit on, but he's wearing his own sort of red face mask and like eye mask. And there's a bit of a fight. There's some action. The art's pretty good. The main thing that happens is that Cheer is able to like infect him with Teardrop, but it's not like the super like strong dose that Bruce got, and Jason's able to fight through it. But it's basically showing Jason a happy idea, and it's just effectively he's in the mansion. He sees a painting of the Joker having been killed. That he's succeeded, and he's with Bruce. It's like it's time for no more masks, so he gets a happy ending. And yeah, everyone's there. The whole Bat family's there. They're all happy. But he snaps out of it. He's able to fight back, and he takes on Cheer. Cheer's a malicious prick, though. He actually threatens Jason with the mother of the son that obviously was a big part of the first couple of issues, and says, "Hey, if you keep fighting, if you don't let this happen, I'm going to have her killed." And it's this super sad thing. But luckily for Jason, the rest of the Bat family come, jumping into scene. We have Dick, we got Duke, we got Steph, we got Cass, we got Batwoman. All of them jump in, full happy Bat family vibes. They all fight together. Babs has had someone else. Who was it? She said. What did she say? She sent someone else to the hospital to take care of the guy who was going to kill the woman. But regardless, he's able to give the antidote to Batman. Batman chases Cheer onto the roof, but he's clearly still affected by this because he's really angry and he's like dangling him over the edge in the pouring rain. And he can't. And it's actually Jason who tells him to calm down, and he sort of throws Cheer to the side, and he's kind of all like sort of like sad in the rain for a moment. There's a sweet scene where Jason gives the little boy a blue hoodie because, of course, if you remember, he picked the name Blue Hood. So it's kind of a sweet little moment. Leslie's setting her up with like the mum a place to stay and giving her rehab, and Bruce is like really sad outside, and Jason and him share a moment. Jason says he's given up the guns. He says, "Look, you know what? Like, I still think some villains deserve to die, but clearly, like the death like spreads to other people. Like, someone died and it spread to this kid, and he can't kind of live with that effectively." So he's changing how he does things. He's not even going to use rubber bullets anymore. He's going to use new tactics. And probably so the middle of the issue showed you what Jason saw when he was on Cheer, and it was this idea that he finally got to kill the Joker, and then they all got to live with no masks forever after that. And we find out from Bruce, Leslie asks, what did you see? What did that Cheer gas show you? That scared you so much? And he says, "No, it wasn't fear. I'm used to fear. I face fear every day. It showed me happiness." And the end of the story shows you what Bruce saw. And it shows you him with the Bat family, and they're all out of costume, and they're all happy. But the actual happy part is that Jason's got Joker, and he lets Jason kill Joker. And that's kind of like the happiness. And what I love about this is that we know that Bruce has always said it's not that he doesn't like sometimes like fantasize or think that the right thing to do would be to kill the Joker. Like, he says that it's a choice he has to fight every time, because if he makes that choice, he crosses a line. It's just that famous speech from Under the Hood, right? It would be so easy to cross that line, and then once he's done it, he would never come back from it. So that's the scary part, is that he got to feel what it would be like to actually do it for a moment. And the end of the story is just that he's left Jason a note to invite him to family dinner, with a new version of his outfit since his previous one got wrecked. And that's the end of the story. Really solid. Really solid stuff. It's mostly the fight and mostly these two hallucinations from the Cheer stuff. But it was fun seeing the Bat family all show up to help. And then seeing the little boy again and having Jason give him a goodbye was really nice as well. This was a really good story by Zarsky. And Marcus Toe in the art has been. Well, he was in the flashback.
Really
sorry,
flashbacks.
Eddie Barrows, yeah.
Barrows, yeah.
And a bunch of others on this one actually. But Eddie Barrows is
the
the
idea
artist.
that he gives up the guns, but he picks up shurikens. He's like, well, it's less lethal.
Yeah, no, I kind of like it. I like the idea that he's like, look, I'm not doing this for because Bruce tries to say something when he says that. He's like, shut up, I'm not doing it for you. This is not because of your code or anything. This is because of the effect I've seen that it's had, and I'm going to change my tactics.
I murdered this young boy's father, and now I have to be responsible for him, and I don't like it.
Yeah, so no, really solid. It's like another solid 8 out of 10 part of the story.
That's good. I hate how relatable that part is for Jason Todd. Like, oh, it's the consequences of my actions come back around to haunt me. Like, you know.
Yeah, it's good stuff. So as always, the middle stories are kind of a little bit weaker. This one actually kind of ties into the Grifter stuff a little bit. So it's called.
This is the Zealot one, right?
Yes, the Zealot one. It's called Blood for Blood. We start off with what looks like Wonder Woman stabbing a security guard with a sword.
Dang, Wonder Woman.
Yeah, and basically it turns out that this is actually Zealot dressed as Wonder Woman because it would be easier to get past a lot of security to up to a certain point. And she's coming after Maxwell Lord. And just as she gets there, he sort of grabs... He's got a helicopter that takes him from the balcony and he gets away. And then it cuts 6 days later, he's on a beach, he's sipping some beverage with an umbrella, as you do. And Zealot comes through the bushes from the side, kills one of his guards, and is like, hey, you know what, you've been a pest, I'm finally here to kill you. And then the real Wonder Woman shows up, saves Maxwell Lord, as conflicting as that must be, I'm sure. Says, who are you, why are you dressed as me? You used to go by the name Zana, don't do this, sister, blah, blah, blah. She swipes her sword at Wonder Woman, does draw a little bit of blood from her arm, fighting ensues. Maxwell Lord gets away in his little speedboat, and she's like, look, you got away again. See, this is what's happened. Wonder Woman flies after Maxwell Lord, but the ending here is that Zealot stands up and says, it's okay, we got what we came for. Because she's talking to the same person, whoever, Grifter was talking to.
Whoever Grifters were talking to her, that makes sense.
Same person. And she goes, no, we got what we came for. And she basically takes a bit of the blood off her sword into a test tube. All they wanted this whole time was blood from Wonder Woman. That's what this little story is about. So I'll give it credit. It is building a little bit of intrigue as to whatever the Wildcats are up to. But I was like, okay, all right. The third... Oh, I should rate that, shouldn't I? It was fine.
Yeah.
This is a 6.
Well, so I'm looking at Zealot real quick, and she basically is Wonder Woman for the Wildcats. She's a long-lived warrior belonging to a nearly immortal ancient alien race known as the Caribim. And is a member of the Coda Sisterhood, a group of Amazonian-like ninja-like warriors from the planet Kara. So, good job. And who wrote that one? That
was Rosenberg again. So same as
So he is just doing. He's just doing Wildcats.
And this is, it's the end question mark. So presumably there'll be another short story with another Wildcat character at a forthcoming issue.
Well, I mean, he's got Voodoo, Spartan, and the fake Wolverine with the metal claws. What's his name? Cyberblade or whatever. Those are the ones I can name off the top of my head.
It's more than I can name off the top of my head, I'll tell you that. Then we have the third and final part of the Tim Drake story, where he's trying to save Bernard from the cult.
Oh boy, was this controversial for...
Yeah, this came up this...
The wrong reasons.
Yeah. So he jumps into the room, he starts fighting the bad guys, he gets Bernard up. There was a moment where he's sort of holding his hand when he's just sort of like picking him up, and he mentions that his hand is warm, and but the narration sort of plays it off as, oh, maybe he has a fever or something. Like he's sort of scientifically saying, hey, this is something weird about this. But Bernard actually can fight a little bit himself. He helps him fight. There's not really much to it. There's a couple of action pages of them fighting, 2-page layout with some action panels, and it's all right. There's a page where Tim's up in like a fire escape looking down at the police, like sort of dealing with the situation, and the cop that he got information from last time like sort of like comes up and like talks to him, and Tim kind of like unbeknownst to him like starts like kind of like being honest about a couple of things about his life, about the fact that he broke up with someone that he cared about, meaning Steph,
Right.
because no one seems to understand. He's not even sure who he is, and the cop basically says, "Look, stop trying to be someone. Just be yourself and take it from there. Stop trying to like put yourself into like a painted corner." And there's a moment, in the previous scene where Bernard referred to their get together from before at the start of the arc as a date. And the end of the issue is that Tim goes to Bernard's, says hello, and says, I didn't know how to classify this before, but I think I'm open to the conversation and figuring it out. So Bernard says, would you like to go on a date with me? And he says, yeah, I think I want that. And that's the end of the issue. So yeah, there was some controversy this week. I don't think the story's that great. I think the entire arc, I wasn't that hot in the first two parts. I'm not that hot in this part either.
Yeah,
it's fine.
I wasn't hot on the first part that I read, and it's fine.
To be honest, having now read all three parts, I kind of think it should have just been one little short story. I think all of the first two parts were mostly about building up who the villains were, and in this third part, it doesn't matter. The villains are meaningless. It didn't matter who had them. It was just about getting to Bernard and this revelation that Tim, might be bisexual, and he's exploring that possibility, and he maybe has feelings for Bernard, and that's fine. Whatever. The controversy of Tim's bisexual now. Who gives a flying shit?
In a well-told story, it doesn't matter.
Especially,
I'm more caring about the story.
And keep in mind here, first of all, some people don't realize that there's more to their sexuality till they're much older than this, but it's very common for people who are college age to be in an experimental phase at that time. So the Tim's at the perfect age for maybe realizing this. Whatever.
Right?
Who cares? Go for it.
Again, I saw the controversy come up around this. I was like, I don't want to do this again. I don't. Just let characters. If that's what the directions are going, let's explore it. Right now,
Yeah, I just I'm, I don't think it was a great. It was fine, some action.
Right, that's what I'm more disappointed as is that it feels just tacked on to a story that could have been better.
I wonder, I wonder if I go back and read that first part, if it feels like it was seeding more things, or if it was because thinking back, it did have kind of a date vibe, despite the fact that there was, obviously we didn't take it as a date because it was Tim and some guy from his run. I do wonder though, because I've not read that Tim run, his solo Robin book where Bernard comes from. I wonder if there was any hints of anything back in that run or not.
I just associate Tim with Steph so much in my head. Do you
know what? I'll be delighted if this means that Steph is not associated as just as Tim's ex-girlfriend. I'll be delighted. Let her shine on her own, please.
Thank you. And, hey, he did go off to Ivy Town College at the end of Tynan's run, to be himself and whatnot. And so maybe those were the seeds that were planted, and then the story is just going to clarify them a little. I just wish that the story that led to it sounds better, because it isn't, based off of your description, it doesn't sound like something that was particularly fun to read. So,
it wasn't unpleasant to read. It just wasn't that exciting.
I don't know. The way you decided, the way you're describing it almost feels like a chore. I'll read it and it's not bad, but I could have read something else kind of vibes.
But luckily, we bookend this. So I was like, okay, so what's this full story at the end going to be? It turns out it ends up being a prelude to the Deathstroke book that's coming up, which was a surprise at the end. I did not see this tying into Deathstroke before the end. Maybe the title gave it away if you knew what the title was, because I think the title's at the end. No, it's not actually. I don't think it is. It's early on. Yeah, it's called. So the story's called Solo. It's written by Joshua Williamson, who's writing the Deathstroke book. Yeah. So that makes sense. Art by Trevor Hairsine. Who I have to say, I actually think this was the art here was good, and I think I like this more than Hairsine's work in Deceased. I think it's better than his Deceased work.
That's high praise, because his Deceased work is pretty good.
I was a bit more mixed on his Deceased work. I think his faces are better here. I think maybe it's just a case of him not having to draw 50 faces.
No, Hairsine did the main one, right? He didn't do the middle chapter that we all really liked.
No, that was the main. I'm sure.
Okay.
Unless I'm mixing the artists up here, but I think that was Hairsine.
Either way.
So this actually starts. So I didn't know what this story was going to be about. It's actually a Black Canary story. In fact, more accurately, it's an old school 90s Birds of Prey story. So we go to the Hall of Justice, and Dinah's with Oliver, and they're doing target practice. And it turns out that she's just kind of pretending she needs help, like learn how to like shoot a bow. Because she actually hits like a target really easily at the end of the scene when she gets a call from Babs and has to go away. And Olive's like, you know what? You don't have to like pretend. Like, if you want to spend some quality time, like I'll just do it. You don't have to pretend to need help. But she goes off because Babs calls her, and Babs like, hey, I've got a job for you. There's this group called Trust. It's an acronym, right? It's called Trust, and they're up to something. It's all very shady. They're too clean, right? There's something suspicious about how clean they are. They're clearly covering something up. So the head honcho, this woman's going to be at this gala in London in a couple of days. I want you to go there. I'll give you an expense account. I'm going to call the shots from here. I have to be in Gotham, so I can't go myself. So it's like proper old school Birds of Prey. This is just them two. Babs at the computer, Dinah on location doing spy stuff. I'm like, okay, this is actually really cool, really fun. And she's like, hey, do I get a car? And that was a big thing. Like, you know, from what I've read of Dixon's Birds of Prey, there's a lot of shots of Dinah riding expensive cars. That was a big part of that book. So sure enough, we cut to her in a red convertible, and she's like speeding through London. Although London's not exactly a good place to be driving a convertible most of the year. Just FYI.
Weather doesn't permit the top down.
But no, it's really good stuff. And she ends up going to this gala. She puts on a dress, and again, Dinah kind of going undercover was a big part of that run. And she tracks down this woman here, and she's trying to think about how to like approach her in a way that doesn't look suspicious. And just as she thinks that or says that, a bunch of terrorists show up and try to assassinate this woman. So Dinah just goes into action mode and, you know, saves her life. A couple of good action sequences. I really like that. She actually stabs one of the guys in the face with her stiletto.
Oof.
And the guy pulls it out, and there's like a blood splat coming out as he pulls it out. Really fun little beat. Action solid here. But yeah, so she's all, you know, kicking ass. She uses her canary cry, and the guy lands. She goes out the window, and he lands on the Corvette, or I don't know if it's Corvette, but you know, the convertible. And Dinah's like, shit, I really like that car. So this action scene's a lot of fun. I want to get it across that this is a really fun, classic Birds of Prey, Dinah kicking ass action scene. Down to the fact that she's in a dress and she's sort of taking off the heels and she's like fighting on her bare feet. It's just a really traditional thing. So basically, this woman's like, hey, she wants to meet you and gets a ride to this mansion. And then is like, hey, you know, you've invited me here. And she's like, well, you saved my life. I want to show you around. And, you know, Dinah's thinking she's going to have to like convince her to like tell her more. And then she's like, hey, I want to offer you a job. And she shows her a painting. So apparently this organization Trust has been around for a long time, but it's been very secretive. And she shows her a painting that has her parents in it. You know, Dinah, Drake, and her father. Apparently they did some work with this organization back in the day. And she's like, okay, I'm in. And it's worth mentioning that the communications with Babs have went down. Like, whatever blockers they've got have like knocked out the communication. So she takes her to this secret room. It's worth mentioning the reason why Babs even sent her on this mission is because this group bought up a bunch of Batman tech that went onto the black market after Joker War, because Joker had, like, you know, sold a lot of it, or like put it all out. So really fun stuff. And we do learn here that those terrorists were hired by this woman so she would need saved. So this is actually really cool in hindsight, that Dinah was trying to think about how to approach her so that it wouldn't look suspicious, and instead these terrorists, which were very convenient, were actually a way to convince Dinah that like this was all like happenstance. And so this was actually them luring in Dinah. They want Dinah on their side for something. But they basically say, okay, so here's the job. You're going to have to like babysit another person that we've brought in as an operative. You know, someone you've worked with in the past. You're going to be acting as the player in the field. You'll be the kind of the agent who's helping us keep control of the other operative. You know, you're the precision. This other one's the blunt object. And then it reveals Deathstroke as the other person they've got there working for them. Who, by the way, is using a bat cowl to wipe his blade, which has got blood on it.
Well, we know Bruce just drops those.
Yeah. Well, keep in mind, they've just bought a bunch of bat tech. I presume there's a bat outfit or something in there somewhere. And she's like, wait, Deathstroke, you gotta be effing kidding me. And she's like, so it's a big sort of nice cliffhanger, and there's a little epilogue which reveals basically, it's revealed in the final page who this is, but someone, like whoever, so this woman hired this other organization to send these assassins to kill herself, so that, obviously Canary could save her. We find out that all 3 of those assassins were killed by the organization they came from, so they couldn't talk and reveal like who hired them. And then it reveals who this organization is. Talia. The final page is this woman's talking to Talia, and Talia says, players in our world are making moves for the future, getting their agents in place for what is coming, and refers to it as a shadow war. So, and then it says, to be continued in Deathstroke Inc. issue 1. Do you know what? Again, much like the backup in Detective, if the goal of this was to make me like into the idea of what this new book is going to be, successful. Mission achieved.
Right. Did you ever read the Team 7 stuff from New 52? I
did not, know.
Yeah, so that put a team together that her husband, that she gets the Lance name from, I think. I think his name was Kurt Lance, and Deathstroke and Grifter and a couple other mercenary-like characters. They were all on this team. It was kind of Suicide Squad adjacent, but they're all government sponsored. Like, they were mercenaries, but like backed. And they had to go get the Black Diamond, and they involved Eclipso, and it wasn't very good, but it did play up the interplay between Black Canary and Deathstroke, and like she hated Slade because of who he was, and something to do with her mom and Slade, like there was a history there or something, and it was very interesting to say the least. So I like the pairing of Canary with Slade.
It's kind of neat, and and Talia being involved in this like tease of the Shadow War, which makes it sound like that's going to be something that's not just Deathstroke Inc. That might be something that expands into more books. It also further makes Checkmate feel a bit separate.
Yeah.
Because Talia, of course, is tying in well enough to the Robin stuff, which is also Williamson, so it's all going to be neatly fitting together with this. This feels like a separate thing that's going to be more directly related to in-continuity stuff. So we'll see how that goes, but I can say I thought Hairsign's art here was better than his deceased stuff. I thought, especially all the action with Canary, her fighting at the party, onto the car, all that stuff was really well done. And I went in knowing nothing, got a classic Birds of Prey style story that ended in the cliffhanger that they're putting a team together with Deathstroke, which is leading into the Deathstroke book. It makes me wonder, is Bab still going to be there as Oracle for her throughout that book? Because presumably that makes Dinah is going to be a main character in that Deathstroke book, which is, again, also cool and is more appealing because, much like the Joker book is more of a Gordon book, it's more appealing to me when it's not just... Because Deathstroke is a bit more interesting, but I still need, like, when I was reading the Deathstroke book from before, like, it was Rose who was more of a sympathetic character. Jericho as well to an extent. So, having Dinah be there as our character that we can root for and more wholesome get behind. Deathstroke is more of an anti-hero, I think, is a really wise choice. So, it got me pumped for it. So, I dug it. Good. So I'll give this a nice solid 8 out of 10. I'm in for it. So, so just when I thought, maybe I won't read this every month now, this Urban Legends book, it gives me this, and I'm like, oh, both is more like this though.
Yeah, that's how they get you.